Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Neil. Hi, Megan. Hi, Jim. Hi, Bill.
Hello. Okay.
John. Hi, John. Howdy. So glad to see so many folks on today. I'm just going to keep letting y'all in for a moment. Hi, Diane. Gabby. Oh, I love being here with you folks. Thank you for hanging out with us. Jamila is here. Oh, great. Well, I'm going to keep letting folks in. I'm going to multitask and speak at the same time. I think I can do it. We'll see. So hello, I'm Jamie Bachman. I'm the Nebraska Master Naturalist Coordinator. I always forget to start with that. Welcome to April's episode of Master Naturalist Mondays. If you are new here, I just want to let you know that the flow of this hour will look like we'll have a little reflective prompt. And then during that time, this is for us to communicate with each other. So feel free to unmute, to pop in the chat, and contribute to our reflective prompt. Like this is one of the pieces of this webinar series is to get a chance to communicate with each other. Then we'll have our presenter speak, and there'll be time for questions. And then at the end, I'll kind of go through some updates with events that are happening within the Master Naturalist program and a call to action. So let me keep admitting people in here for just a moment. If anybody has any lovely spring happenings or any interesting things or lovely moments during the spring that we've been having so far, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'd love to hear about it. And as this starts to slow down, I'll go ahead with our reflective prompt here. I was telling folks that on another webinar that I was on, that I have a series of beaver dams behind my house. and I saw a river otter, and then I waited to be really loud and obnoxious about it, and found tracks and scat that had fish scales in it, and so it's confirmed.
Scat.
I know, right, Paula? Nice to see. We got some honeybees in our backyard. Thank you, Don. I seen bees moving. I saw some butterflies yesterday. Neil. Oh gosh, Neil, I'm so excited to hear you're able to help out on a couple of prescribed fire with prescribed burns with the Tri-County Prescribed Burn Association. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah, it was been really
most people don't have their audio on.
That's okay. When they want to unmute, they'll unmute.
Okay.
Thank you, Paula. What were you saying, Neil?
Just it's been really interesting, and I'm going to be doing some more rest this month. You just never know until the day of, basically. So, fun call.
Neil, may I ask, what's the Tri-County
Where is that?
It's Lancaster, Saline, and Seward County,
Okay,
or whatever county is Seward County, whatever county
down
Seward
there.
is. Yeah.
So I'm trying to get something going up here in Washington County because we don't have a PBA. Is that how you say? Yeah, PBA up here.
Right.
So just kind of curious. Good for
For
you.
those of you who don't know, Nebraska has prescribed fire associations. And they're all volunteers, and they are located in different areas. You can volunteer to help with those associations closest to you, and after you help, then they come and help you. You can get in touch with prescribed fire training details where that's happening across the state. If you want to work on developing those skills and those experiences, so that you can work more on prescribed fires. We're gonna have to. Neil has written up his experience at the beginning of his prescribed fire training and burn. So we'll have to get together again on that, Neil. I was trying to get it in this issue of the newsletter.
Sounds good. Whenever.
Okay. We got Herptovoid ended yesterday with the sighting of the first painted turtle of the year. That's good. Kathy says that it is International Beaver Day. Bill reports that first bluebird eggs of the season last week near Brownville, and he's got many full nests. 2 otters at row last week from Heidi, and Glacier Creek is setting up to have some burns this week and early next week. I do know that Glenn Pollock is looking for, I don't know if he's on, but I know that he's looking for help on a burn as well. If anybody wants his information to connect with him, I can surely do that. Just feel free to email me. Okay, thank you all for your contributions. We're gonna get moving on our reflective prompt, and we'll continue our conversation. So here we go. Can everybody see the reflective prompt screen? Thumbs up. Very good. Okay. So let's talk about biodiversity. What does biodiversity mean to you, and why is it important?
Well, I think it means having a variety of flora and fauna in the right proportions for that environment.
Very good. Thank you for contributing.
I can get really sciencey. Both intraspecies and systemic biodiversity. When we were working with the Madagascar program, they would look at the biodiversity within a species to determine which patches of forest had healthier populations of lemurs. And they would, since they couldn't save them all, save the one that had the most biodiversity within some of the species in that patch of land, as well as the overall ecosystemic level biodiversity that she was talking about of, a healthy ecosystem has as much biodiversity as it can sustain, because you need all the pieces. So, I mean, they're the 2 different components or aspects of biodiversity. And yes, I am preparing the ecology test for the Science Olympiad, so I just reviewed all that.
I was like, that was really great. Thank you, Judy. It's right in your brain though, right? Well done.
Well, I have a question for the kids on the exam about whether there's something as interspecies or intraspecies biodiversity, and we'll see how many get it right.
Any other contributions? In the chat, we have a variety of different organisms in a location. High biodiversity in an ecosystem is an indicator of health. And if you don't have like, what does biodiversity mean to me? Like, why is biodiversity important? Why is it important? More biodiversity means more food options.
It's less boring if it's more biodiverse.
Yeah, the biodiversity is kind of non-linear. It's, you know, that kind of food web kind of thing where you have species that, yeah, they may feed mostly on one thing, but if that piece happens to be pulled out of the puzzle, there's other things that they can feed on. So it just gives sort of checks and balances, and so short-term environmental catastrophes can be overcome.
I really like that, Tobin, the non-linear piece of that. I really like that. Thanks for contributing. That was good. Did you have more, Tobin?
No, I should probably unmute when I start muddling myself.
Gabby says the most healthy environments tend to have the highest biodiversity.
Well, at higher biodiversity also helps with resilience of an environment, or ecosystem, just as Tobin was talking about. Actually, my PhD dissertation was on making the most diverse microbial community for a space life support system. And if one of my bacteria failed, if I had more that could do the same metabolic thing, then my reactor would not fail. It would still be able to do what it needed to do. And if you have only one species that does a niche or has a particular niche and you lose that, then your ecosystem can be in trouble. But if you have 3 or 4 that can fill that niche, then you have a more stable, more resilient ecosystem.
Resilience.
Yes.
Good.
Will we get into the part where natives versus other things that are growing there? I assume that'll come later.
I don't know if we're gonna hit that in our presentation today. Typically, Paula, I don't know if you've been on, but Paula is going through the Core 24 training, Master Naturalist Core 24 training right now. So I don't know if we're gonna hit on that today. We're talking about a specific community science project.
Okay.
But that is a very relevant and interesting dynamic conversation to have. I really enjoy taking a look at that and hearing different. It's really good.
Okay.
Jim says biodiversity is all about the interconnectedness of everything living and how we all interact with one another. Interconnectedness. Diversity. It's important. Any further comments, reflections, things to add? I'm so glad that you're here, Paula. Thank you for contributing. And Judy and Tobin, everybody in the chat, thank you. Okay. We're gonna move on. Let me introduce you to our speaker for today. So we have Bree Nugent today. She's our community science program manager at the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission in the education division. Fish and Wildlife Education Division, which is where Master Naturalist is now housed in the Game and Parks. So we're on the same team and we've got to work together over the last couple of years, and I'm really glad that she's on here today with us. And she'll be discussing this community science project, biodiversity in the state parks. Bree is also a master naturalist, and she developed a passion for community science through the Master Naturalist program, and that has led her. Hold on, I'm dark. 1 second. And that has led her to her work here at the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. First as a seasonal educator in the spring of 2022, and now she's here with us as the full-time community science program manager, and she has a love for making scientific research accessible. And it's just deepened since she has been a part of this program. So thank you so much for joining us today, Bree. We're lucky to have you.
Thank you for the introduction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hello, everybody. It is April, which means that it is Community Science Month. So this is a very fitting presentation to be doing right now, and a great way that you all can get involved in Community Science Month. So I'm going to be talking about, as Jamie mentioned, the Biodiversity in State Parks project that we have kind of soft launched last year and are hoping to promote the project in a bigger way over the next couple of years. So, there we go. So Jamie did a fabulous introduction, so I'm just going to talk a little bit, if you don't know who I am, about my background. So I actually grew up in a small town along the Oregon coast, and I lived there for most of my life until the military brought me to Nebraska. So I didn't know much about Nebraska before I moved here, and I learned a lot just through exploring and being curious and wanting to make those roots here. So I did a very different job than I do now in the military. I worked on aircraft. I helped maintain them and was focused on their computer systems that collected radar signals. So very different, and I was in a community of people that were very much like interested in IT, interested in technology and all of that, which for me, my interest stopped after the aircraft. Once I was off, I was at home. I had no interest in technology in that way. So I had to kind of find my people. And I did that through community science. And then later on through the Master Naturalist program, I found some other nature nerds and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is what I was meant to do. And that's kind of how I got to where I am now. So community science played a big role in my life, really, and where I'm at. So these talking points were really for somebody going to say something.
I just spotlighted you. Is that,
Okay.
Are you still able to see everybody's faces, or?
I can.
Okay,
Mhm.
good. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, yeah, I can see everybody. So these are talking points. This slide was mostly for me, so I would stay on track when I was building the presentation. But these are some of the things we are going to talk about throughout this presentation. So the main goal of this Biodiversity in State Parks project is to gain more observational data about the diversity of plant and wildlife species that are in our state parks and in our state recreation areas. And in order to do this, we are using the power of community science, which is going to hopefully help fill a lot of the gaps in data that we have right now as far as our species diversity goes. So why are we using community scientists for this project? With many community science projects, there's limited resources like time, staffing, and funding is a big one. So using volunteers and recruiting them for these projects can really help with that time and staff and funding. And filling gaps of biodiversity needs in Nebraska Game and Parks areas across the state park. So many people go into our state parks. They use the trails. They come visit in the summertime, in the spring, and there's so much that they could be taking pictures of and making those observations while they're just out already enjoying the parks. So it's something that these people are already doing, which is awesome and very accessible. So gaining better insight into our threatened and endangered species populations is another key reason why we want to use community scientists, because we can do that through this project. We can actually look for those threatened and endangered species through the observations that community scientists make. And I think one of the best parts about this project is that we can increase public awareness and promote connection to Nebraska's native flora and fauna. It's a cool way for people to have a stronger connection with the plants and wildlife and fungi that they're taking pictures of and learning more about through this project, doing something that they already enjoy doing and are wanting to do. And obviously, the more people we can get involved, the more data we can get that can help inform our conservation management strategies further on down the road. So obviously, we're going to need as many people as we can get to really cover our bases across the state. So the more people, the more data, the better this project will be and the more that we can do with it. So how are we collecting this observational data that I keep talking about? So we are using the iNaturalist platform, and we have a project that is live already up on iNaturalist, and it's called Biodiversity in State Parks. So we have one umbrella project, and I'll show you guys this in a little bit, like what it looks like on iNaturalist. So we have this big umbrella project, and then we have smaller ones that are for specific parks that feed into this umbrella project. So once we look at it, you can kind of see what that looks like as far as the smaller projects under the big one. So each of the parks that are included in this project, they have like boundaries for the parks. And if you are in that boundary and you take a photo and you upload it to iNaturalist with the location information, it'll automatically get fed into this project. So there's no like extra work on your end. You don't have to join the project unless you want to keep up to date with it. But as soon as you upload and you're in that state park, it just goes to that project. So it's really easy. I did put a QR here, and I also have the link for the iNaturalist project, and I'll send all that out too, and Jamie sends the follow-up email, but it's there if you want to take a look on your phone if you have iNaturalist already. If not, we're going to talk a little bit about how to with iNaturalist for anybody that's not familiar with it. So why are we using iNaturalist? One of the big things is cost. iNaturalist is free for us to use, and it's also free on the user end. Anybody can download the app for free, and it's just creating that accessibility that we look for in a community science project. So it's just easy for people to use, and it's free, which is always good. And it is also one of the largest community science platforms. Right now, it has over 8.5 million registered users, which is insane. It's a lot of people, so it has the size, which also means that when we make observations, there's a lot of people that can vet our observations. A lot of people are familiar with iNaturalist. It is a pretty well-known app at this point. Not just app, but it also has a website. So a lot of people know about it, and like our division has used it a lot in previous projects. So we've done the City Nature Challenge through iNaturalist. We had a pollinator iNaturalist project for Pollinator Week, and then we usually make a project for our bio blitzes that are done across the state. So I talked a little bit about our threatened and endangered species, and I'll show you what this looks like on the actual iNaturalist platform here in a little bit. But these are just some of the ones that I pulled because I thought they were cool observations. But you can actually filter threatened species. Now, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect system. Some of the lists may be a little outdated, but it is a good starting point for us when we want to see what kind of threatened and endangered species are in our parks. And the odds of people just being out and about hiking and seeing something is a lot higher sometimes than us trying to actively look for them. So these were some of the ones that I pulled, and we can look at what that page looks like, and you can see all of the threatened species that are on there. If you are not familiar, we have a state wildlife action plan, and it's called the Nebraska Natural Legacy Project. And right now they are currently revamping it. They're updating the State Wildlife Action Plan right now, but we can kind of check what is on that State Wildlife Action Plan to what we are actually seeing in our parks and get a better idea of population, their behaviors and all that stuff. So there's a lot of cool things that we can use this iNaturalist platform for. An invasive species, as Paula was talking about, with invasive species on iNaturalist, you can search, you can filter all of your observations to show you introduced species is what it's labeled as. And these are some of the ones that were really common that came up. A lot of people come across the common reed as taking over. So a lot of people see that, and there were a lot of observations for starlings. We all know they're everywhere. They are at our bird feeders. They are in our neighborhoods. And then the Chinese mystery snail is another one that like our aquatic invasive species team is really targeting. So these are useful observations that we can look at and kind of help us with some management decisions. And it also may help us see when new species have been introduced. So if we see that like a species has been expanding its range, or one that we haven't documented before in the state could come up somewhere else. And community scientists have often made these observations before. So it's not unheard of for a community scientist to discover a new introduced species or just a new species in general. So that part is really cool. I'm going to go ahead and just show what the iNaturalist platform looks like.
You're muted, Bree.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. So this is the page that opens up when I log into iNaturalist. So this is my observation page. I can view all of my observations. I can see if people have left comments. I can see if people have identified it and it has become research grade where more than one person has given the same identification. So there's lots of things you can just see from this page here. But I'm going to show you what the project looks like. So I have over here, this is my profile, and I can go to this dashboard option. And it shows me all this stuff here. So I can look at my observations again. I can edit observations. So there's a lot of things you can do from your dashboard. But at the very end here is projects. So these are all the projects that I have joined. And this one is our Biodiversity and State Parks one. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, we have quite a few state parks on here already, and we did add a few more this year. So these are all the parks that are currently under the umbrella project. So this up here is the big umbrella project, but if you were to go here and select one, it'll take you to that specific project. So you can see what is being observed in that area, that specific park. And it has this cool leaderboard function. Will show you like who's had the most observations, who has the most species, and then what the most observed species is, which is kind of cool. So you can see what people are really interested in taking pictures of and what they're seeing. And then down here, it'll tell you like how many observations have been made to this project, how many are considered research grade, how many of them need ID, which this number is usually a little higher. People are just waiting for their stuff to be identified. And then casual, sometimes the casual ones are like if they're cultivated or something, if they're something that's been planted, it'll sit in this casual status. And then up here, it tells you like the overall observations, how many species have been documented in that area. So in Wildcat Hills State Recreation, there's 1,412 species. That's quite a bit that's been documented already. And these are the amount of people that are identifying on this project. So that's what a lot of people that are sitting there like going through and IDing things. So that's not super common. And then there's only 117 observers. So it's kind of cool to see the stats on these. There's this, you see this badger photo? Sometimes we get trail cam photos on iNaturalist too, but they're also helpful. So then if we were to go to observations, and I hit the search button right here, I'll show you how you can set up filters to look for those threatened species that I showed you earlier. So if you go here, you can put the filter up for threatened. You can do research grade. The other one is the introduced that I had selected to pull up those earlier photos. So if we go to threatened, and then we'll go update search, then it'll pull up species that are considered threatened that it's been checking against other lists. Now, like I said, these lists may not be super updated, but it's a good starting point. And some of these I can recognize from our State Wildlife Action Plan, the Natural Legacy Project. So as you can see, like there's monarchs, a lot of monarchs. These cute little hummingbirds are on here. So this is kind of cool, even if you're just a hobbyist and you're really interested to see what kind of T&E species are in your area. It's a pretty useful tool. And then if we go back to filters, I can uncheck that and then I'll do introduced. And if you wanted to just look for certain things, you could just do plants, you could just do amphibians. You can narrow it down further if you'd like. So these are some what are considered introduced species. Sometimes we get ones like this, like if you see it says casual, that's because these are domesticated animals. So sometimes they'll come up and it'll still be in here, but it'll let you know that this isn't going towards any research or anything like that. So yeah, these are some mullein. Some people don't know that's an introduced species. Got honeybee on here. So yeah, this one's really cool too if you're interested in, even if you're searching in your area, like in a location, you can see what species are around you. If you're a forager and you're wanting to forage for introduced plants and try and help get rid of them, that's one way you could do it too. Let me go back to in the chat, can you guys let me know how many of you already use iNaturalist? Just curious to see if I should cover you. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you guys are already using it on occasion. All the time. That's great. Okay, so a lot of you are already using iNaturalist. So this may be a refresher for some of you, or you can kind of space this part out. I'm going to just cover really quick. I'm just going to show you how to do an observation. For anybody that hasn't used iNaturalist, isn't familiar with it, or maybe hasn't seen it used on the website before. Yeah, okay. Some people have it, but they haven't used it much. Okay, good to know. Okay, so I'm going to just show you really quick on the website how to make an observation. So if we go upload, you can choose a file. So you can choose a file from your, like if you uploaded something on your computer already. So I'm going to do this over here. So what I like to do is I'll put the picture, I'll upload the picture first. And if you have more than one picture, that's obviously welcomed. If you can get a picture of like, so I have a picture of a flower. If you got a picture of the flower, if you got a picture of the leaves up close, like that is all really helpful. The more pictures, the better. So if you can get different angles, if you can get close-ups on certain identifying features, that is really easy for other people that want to help identify your observations to make a sound ID. So I'll upload my photos first, and then I like to do the location because it'll help narrow down any species suggestions that iNaturalist has. So I was in Continental Forest when I found this one. And I was kind of, can narrow this down a little bit. So I was around here. And if you have exact coordinates, that you can use that too, or if you know exactly, like if you've saved that location or you know exactly where you're at, you can obviously put the address in there too. But this was like, I was generally in this area. So I'm going to update that observation. And then I'm going to go here and see what it suggests as far as species. Oftentimes it'll give you this, we're pretty sure it's in this genus. So that's iNaturalist saying that it's checked it against its databases and it feels confident that it's in this genus. And then it may narrow it down to species and give you lots of species options. Since this is a bloodroot, there aren't as many species options, but like for insects, you could put a bee up there and it just drops down a whole bunch of ID suggestions. And sometimes for me, that's a little overwhelming to just like narrow it down to a species. So I will go out to that genus, or maybe there's a subfamily, a family. Sometimes I just put that it's a plant if I'm just really not confident enough. And that's totally fine because you're going to have people on the other end that are confident and they're experts and they do a lot of identification on iNaturalist that are more than happy to help you out with that and give you a good like suggestion for an ID. So I know this is a bloodroot, so I'm going to say bloodroot. If I wasn't confident enough, then I could just put it out to that genus and someone else can come in and help me identify it further down to species. And then there's this note section. This note section is really helpful for context for certain things. So every time I upload a picture of a fungus, I usually put a note in there saying like, I was in a hardwood forest that was dominated by oaks and cottonwoods, and giving that context can help them, like whoever's going to help you identify it can help them narrow it down further because some fungus only grows on certain species of trees. So that context can be really helpful. So if you do have any notes, always add more information when you can. So then you can go up here. It'll ask you if you want to submit. Doing your observations on the website is really great if you have a bunch. If you have a lot of observations that you want to make, it's good to do it in this format because you can do it in batches. So I could put a whole bunch of observations on here and just submit them all at the same time. If you're doing it on your phone, you have to do it one at a time. So this is really good if like I went out to a bio blitz and I took a bunch of photos, or I went out on a walk in one of our state parks and I was in tram and I was taking photos as I was walking with my kiddos. And then it would just be really easy to upload them all at the same time rather than sitting there and going through each one on my phone. So once I have that, I can go ahead and submit it. I have found that sometimes it takes a little bit to update on your actual observation page, but it'll let you know when it's done. So after this little bit, it should tell me. Here we go. So my observations are here. And this is really cool too. You can see the map of where my observations are. So you can kind of see, like I have a lot of observations in Lincoln and I live in Papillion, so I have a lot of them around this area. I should probably have some, I have some on here on some of my work trips. Shadron. So it is kind of cool to see where your observations are and kind of like you get a good idea of like where you've traveled and where you've used iNaturalist. So that's kind of a cool thing for you to be able to see on your own stuff. Does anybody have any questions so far on iNaturalist, how to use it, or anything that you have come across on iNaturalist that you're like, I would love to know how to use that?
I've kind of been answering questions, but I would love for you if you had anything else to add. So Lindsay asks, does this contain any sort of keys to identify, or does one need a field guide?
Like field guides are helpful.
And
keys to identify. So iNaturalist, I see somebody else put down here. Yeah. So they use, Jamie, you put in there that it does use a database that's through AI. And they've had that for a long time. That feature's been in that iNaturalist app for a long time before AI has exploded. But yes, so if you wanted to try and identify your own observation down to a species, obviously having a field guide or using some information online can be helpful. Like I've done that before, where I've seen an iNaturalist suggestion for one of my observations. I'm like, I'm not really sure, so I might pull up some photos from reputable sources online and kind of check against it and be like, okay, I feel pretty confident now that what iNaturalist has suggested might be what I had, what I hadn't. People will correct you, and it's happened to me many times where I'm like, I feel really confident, and then somebody will come and be like, actually, I think it's this, and then 3 other people will be like, yeah, it's that, and I'm like, cool guys, and I'll just silently accept the suggested ID and move on.
And that's how you learn the ID. It's not necessarily through a key, but it's through the community. Would you say that that's been my experience, Bree?
Yeah, there's definitely been like people that are really active in the ID portion of iNaturalist love offering information as to why they're offering that identification. So they'll say like, I would say it's that because you said that you found like I'll show you really quick. This is a good example. So I had this beetle that we found on some deer remains, like it was just bones. So we found this beetle, it was on the bones. So I had this species suggestion of a common carrion beetle. And then there were some interactions after that of people being like, oh, it could be because you found it on animal bones. And then this person said, definitely not. And then disagreed with it and offered a different one. So, and then other people were like, yeah, it looks a lot more like that. And then I have so many other people saying that, yes, that's what it is. So you do get a lot of this interaction. And sometimes people even bring in other experts. So if there's an ID that someone's like, hey, I'm not super sure about this, and they're also an expert, they may reach out and be like, hey, so-and-so, can you help us with this? And then you'll just see this like chain of people talking to each other about your observation. So you can learn a lot through the people that are making those suggestions on your observations too. I've definitely learned a few things from them as far as AD goes. We've done general down. Is there a listing of state parks included in that? Yes. So in that project, since this list is growing and I'm still adding parks to it, I think the easiest way is to go to the project itself and see what parks are part of it. Some of these projects take a little while to load if they're really big. So these are the current ones. If I'll just leave it up for a little bit if you guys want to look and see what parks are near you and which ones we have active right now. This is definitely not going to be the only parks that are on this. We are continually growing them, and we are just trying to promote the project in a bigger way. But to do that, we also want to have a lot of parks on here so people have places near them that they can go and participate. But obviously we hit some of these bigger parks and we're hoping to get some smaller ones too. That way we can get just a really good scope on the species in those parks too. And this is the map for the project, so you can see where these parks are located too. So you can see like if one of these are close to you, or if you're traveling somewhere, you're like, oh, we could stop here along the way and make some observations for the project. We would love that. So right now, I would say this is probably the best way to see which parks are involved in the project as I continue to add more. See, is there anything else? First year uploaded during the City Nature Challenge. His first suggestion of a weed in my yard was some African species. The second suggestion was at least live in North America. Yeah, so it's not perfect. The process in which it is comparing things isn't perfect, especially when things like insects and plants and mushrooms, it usually dumps in a whole bunch of things that it can be. But that's one of the reasons that I like to upload my photo and then upload the location. because that'll help iNaturalist narrow it down to species that are in your area. It'll give you suggestions for nearby, and it won't just start going on this big global search for species, because this platform is global. My Naturalist is global. It is going to be pulling everything that looks like that. So if you can hone it down to a location, that's going to help iNaturalist and help you out when it comes to identification. If we visit a park that doesn't already have posted samples, we'll add that park to your list. So if there's no observations made, is that what the question is? Yeah, so if the park isn't added to our umbrella project, so if I haven't created a project for that park, your observation is just going to go into like the general iNaturalist database, but it won't go into our project unless it has a sub project. So like Ash Hollow only has 17 observations, and at one point it didn't have any. We just created this project, so then it started to dump them in there. But as soon as I create a project for a location, any observations that were already made in that area previously get dumped into the project. So if you made an observation 6 years ago, it's going to be in that project. So it is really cool because we still get that long-term observational data without trying. It's just, that's how the project is set up. Can we also include observations from wildlife management areas? So I think that is something that we might look into in the future. Right now we're focusing on state parks because we already have people that are visiting there in large numbers, and we can promote the project in a big way. But it would be amazing if we could branch it out to those wildlife management areas, and we would be reaching a different audience of people that are recreating in a different way than the ones that are visiting our state parks sometimes. So that would be definitely another thing that we could add to our project in the future. How do you join the project, or is it automatic? So when you make an observation and you are in the area of the state park that the project is built for, it automatically goes into the project. So you don't have to join the project. The only reason that you could join the project is just to keep up with it. If you're interested in seeing, if you just want to be a part of the project and be active in it. But there is no requirement for uploading. If you upload an observation, it just goes magically into our project and you don't have to do anything. So that's another accessibility feature of the project as well. So there's a lot of things when it comes to using iNaturalist and just technology in general that can create barriers. So the less of those we have, the more successful this project can be. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my presentation. I just have a little bit left. So looking ahead, what we're hoping to see in the future with this project is obviously increased engagement. We want people to know about the project. There was a soft launch last year, but it wasn't really promoted. We just now put it on our website and are starting to kind of get the word out. I have made some signage that will be going into state parks so people can easily download iNaturalist on their phone and start participating. So we're working towards that increased engagement. I did mention we want to add more parks. So already this year we have 4 more parks than we did last year, and we are just hoping to see that number go up and maybe even those wildlife management areas. Conservation is a big reason that we wanted to do this project. We're hoping that it can help inform our conservation efforts that we're doing in our state parks. So maybe in areas that we want to focus on, key habitat areas, because we know there's a lot of threatened and endangered species in there. Or if there's some invasive species control techniques or methods that we want to implement in an area, we kind of know where we can target because we have an idea of where those species are. And then how can you participate? One of the big ways, obviously, is to contribute. So if you are in a state park or state recreation area that is in our umbrella project, please take photos of any living thing that you find and upload it to iNaturalist. And then another thing that we don't always talk about when it comes to iNaturalist projects is also helping with the identification portion. So if you if you're just hanging out, you're just like, I have some spare time on my hands, hop on iNaturalist for a little bit and help people identify some of the observations that they've uploaded to the project. So you can just go to the project and you can just click on one and go, oh, I definitely know what that is. If plants are your thing, insects are your thing, just helping us ID those to get them to research grade is really helpful, because then we know for sure someone else has already vetted that. And promoting it. This is also a huge part of a successful community science project, is getting the word out. So please tell your friends, family, other master naturalists that weren't here today about the project. So if you know they're going to visit a state park or a recreation area and you know that that park is part of the project, even if it's not, just let them know about iNaturalist and help contribute that data, because we may create a project in the future for that park and then they'll automatically go to it. So yeah, the big ask of Nebraska Master Naturalist is really just to help us spread the word and contribute when you can. Are there any more questions for me? Let's see, I see. Look in the chat. I had a picture of ebony jewel wing at Platte River State Park. I just uploaded. Look at your pics from last year. Thanks. Is it possible to designate a waterway or wetland for a project? For example, Platte River or Elkhorn River Basin as a project. So I am currently trying to make a project for the Cowboy Trail, and with the size of it, it is like becoming kind of hard to figure out how to do that, and how to draw those boundary lines, because there is a certain way and certain files that you have to upload to iNaturalist for them to accept it as a new location. So that one I would have to look into a river. That one might be a little harder to do as far as boundaries go. You might have to do it in sections if you want to do it that way. I think that's what I'm going to do with the Cowboy Trails, kind of break it up into sections of the trail, so that way I have an easier time drawing those boundary lines. And then just put it under an umbrella project like we have the biodiversity and state park set up. So that could be an option. Or Nature Conservancy's Niobrara Valley Reserve. That one might be easy to do.
They
when you
already
go to-
have a project going.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if it can be like added, just what's already there. Is that a thing, Bree? If like a project that's already been can it just be like into?
Oh, sucked up into it?
Yeah, I don't
You
I think so.
Yeah, you can. So like those smaller state parks that we created projects for, on the umbrella project, we can add a project to it. So if you had a smaller project for an area for a specific event or a specific reason, you're looking for a specific species or a group of animals, then you could set up a project and just have it go under that umbrella one if you wanted to. There's ways to do it. It just kind of depends on what the purpose is and the context and everything. Any other questions about iNaturalist, the project?
I like the cicada.
Thanks. I was in my brother's backyard. We got to watch it emerge. It was very magical.
Oh, sorry, I forgot I had my audio on, but that's something I have gone out and tried to get pictures of, and I have some, but they're not as good as that one.
Yeah, this is only the second one that I've ever caught actually like emerging. The other one was a really long time ago. I was doing a bumblebee survey for the Bumblebee Atlas project, and I just happened to see it on a tree, and it was the most magical thing. And then I saw this one in my brother's yard, and I just came and watched it every 10 minutes. I'm sure it loved it. What's the PRB project?
That river basin.
Yeah, Platte River Basin. Oh, was that on iNaturalist? Is that what?
What's the thing with
Mhm.
all the cameras on the Platte River? I thought that was a Platte River Basin project.
Yeah, Platte River Basin project, yeah. They have time-lapse cameras and they also do a lot of conservation storytelling. So they'll use their time-lapse images and they'll also go and do interviews and get some really gorgeous they'll get some really gorgeous film and they'll put it together in very, very cool projects. They have a website.
It's very, it's, I do think that one of the purposes of this project is to, stir emotion, right? It's when you watch these videos of this, of the, like, look, and there's always sound,
It's
you know,
gorgeous.
it's very moving. They do their work very well, for sure.
And they do, yeah, they do stories with landowners about how they are implementing conservation strategies on their land. Right now they're helping our division create some wetland educational videos for a big project that we're doing. We're hoping to do like field trips and lesson plans and curriculum and all that stuff for teachers to use in their classrooms around Nebraska's wetlands. And they're helping us get some of this footage together and some interviews, so it's gonna be really cool. But anyway, they're amazing people. They do really great work. Highly recommend you explore their website. I dropped the link in the chat if you're interested in watching some just beautiful scenery and stories.
Another way that we had talked about getting master naturalists more involved in this, in the biodiversity in state parks community science project, is there is potential there for you folks to lead bio blitzes in the state parks. And there could be BioBlitz training on what that is and how that all works, and who could be the leader, who could, be the leader to facilitate this within the Master Naturalist community. Or it could be, a smaller engagement, like bringing the community together, some of the folks together, and making a trip to a state park to just like take as many photos as possible. Like, what a great excuse. Like, let's go to Ash Hollow Historical State Park. They only have 17 observations. Let's get a crew together and spend the day just blasting, the biodiversity in the state parks. Let's get that number up, because Wildcat Hills is the leader right now, you guys. And that's probably all Colin, right?
Yeah, a lot of it was.
So if anybody has any interest in that, in doing having a bio blitz, in an introduction to what a bio blitz is and how that could be utilized for this community science project, reach out to me. Also, if there would be some value in hosting an iNaturalist, an introduction to iNaturalist and how to use it, I could certainly make that happen. We do have a hole in the June Master Naturalist presentation, and I could fill that and do an iNaturalist refresher or an introduction for sure. So please, let me know. I will be sending out an evaluation, and you can add that into the evaluation. Like, yes, I want to know, tell me more about iNaturalist, set it up, make it happen, Jamie. So there's all that too. We're coming up on the end of our hour, so I'm just going to jump right in to our upcoming events. I understand if you have to jump off. So I'm just going to share my screen and get into this real quick. For those that are able to hang on here. So again, evaluations, I'm going to send this evaluation link. This is how your voice is heard. This program is your program. Master Naturalist Mondays is for you. Anything that you have to say about it is taken seriously, and I look at these evaluations often, so please let your voice be heard. The first issue of your seasonal newsletter went out last week. The Naturalist is what it is called, and that went out via the listserv, and also you can find it on our website. I'll attach the link in the and add it to the follow-up email. You'll be getting a follow-up email with all the links and information of things that were discussed today for sure. And there's an evaluation in the Master Naturalist newsletter, in the Naturalist newsletter, for any feedback. If you would like to contribute, if you have ideas or thoughts or reflections, because again, that is your newsletter, and I want to get you what you want in that newsletter for sure. Next month we're having Jans Brueggemann from Northern Prairies Land Trust, and he's our fungi nerd. We're really lucky to have him on. And he's going to come on and talk to us about Nebraska fungi and their ecology. That is May 5th. So I look forward to seeing you all then.
Are these always an hour long?
Yep, they're all from 12:30 to 1:30. Yep, that's right, Paula. And if you are gonna register, because I will send you the link to the recording and the evaluation and all the information and resources. So even if you're gonna miss, if you register, you'll still get all the information that's associated with it as well. And the follow-up email. There's a hole in June. I'm either going to fill it with iNaturalist or Conservation of Dark Skies. But July, we are having Kathy Prettyman on. She's going to do native plants for native pollinators. Thank you, Kathy. She's on today. I'm really excited to hear from her. I think this might be a great chance for you to talk about, unmute yourself, Kathy, and do a call for volunteers real quick.
Call for volunteers. There is a native plant garden being installed at the Florence Mill, historic Florence Mill in Omaha. We are looking for volunteers for planting day, and then also the maintenance we need help with. So if anyone's interested, I'm putting a little note in the chat for my email. Because we'll probably be doing some planting this May, and then, have to do some watering, weeding. And it's really cool because the leader is an ethnobotanist, and she will be having signs made up about the uses of these native plants in historic, from the Native Americans and possibly, some of the early settlers, how they used these plants. And I think more so how the natives used it is what she wants to get across. And so it'll be educational as well as learning about native plants. And who doesn't like being around flowers and bees and butterflies? And
Yep, that's right.
If you have any questions, just email me.
And I'll add her email to the follow-up email, to her contact information in the follow-up email that you'll get from this. So if you want to, you can find her information pretty quick. Let's go ahead, Kathy. Did you have more?
Just said thank you.
Oh, of course, my pleasure. Absolutely. We have our Nebraska's Big Butterfly Count Community Science Project trainings coming up. So this week we have our 2-part virtual training workshop that's happening. Even if you can't make it, if you register, we'll send you the recording or a link to the recording, and you can watch the recording. And then if you come to one of our associated field days, then you're in. But the field day is a requirement of participating in the survey. So, or even if you just want to learn more about it. So I will send the links to register and more information about the Nebraska Big Butterfly Count, which was the brainchild of Joanna Langaby, who is a master naturalist, y'all. So it's pretty cool. This is just about our in-person field trainings, which is a requirement of participating. And then we're having an in-person field training too. So if you want to come in person and get the whole thing and get some good hands-on feedback and good guidance, that is Saturday, May 3rd at the Crane Trust. So that information will be coming out to you as well. We are also in May 10th, we are having Nature Nerd Trivia. Master Naturalist is partnering with PATH, Pollinator Alliance of the Heartland, and we are putting together a pollinator edition of Nature Nerd Trivia. So there'll be snacks, snack lacas, and there'll be fun nerd prizes. So please join us. This is at Jukes Ale Works in Elkhorn. So please come on out. It'll be a great time. It's in community. And you'll be learning. It's an educational event. You can count it towards your education hours. Put in your hours, y'all. Add your hours. You can do it. I believe in you. And these are all the links from last month's community science information. I just kept them in here for you all to take a look at again if you missed it. And I will send this presentation, the reflective prompt and all of this as a PDF, and you'll be able to access the hyperlinks right in it. They'll be attached in the PDF. And I think that's it, my friends. I appreciate your time so much. Let's just check the chat real here before I. All right. Very good. You're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging on to hear about the updates. If you have any questions, anything at all, email me. I'll get back to you. Okay.
Mary Johnson's question about the Schramm Park. Isn't there also a hands-on training for the butterfly count at Schramm?
Yeah. So there's two hands-on training. There's one at Schramm, and then there's one in Norfolk as well. The Game and Parks Commission in Norfolk. And so just to kind of spread those field days out across the state to make it more accessible to more people, for sure. Thank you for pointing that out, Judy. I appreciate it. I just kind of spun through that really quick.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Bree, for coming out. We appreciate you.
Of course, anytime.
Have a good one, everyone.